Hi, welcome back. In this section, we are going to look at what we call box, box and whisper charts. So, this is a finished product of what I'm going to show you on how to get there. So basically, what we are trying to do is in this charting box and whisper chart, we basically use it when we want to kind of see outliers. So what are outliers? Are people who do not fall into our averages. So normally we use what we call percentiles to do this. So what we mean is, so let's say you go to a test and someone tells you that you're at the 25th percentile. It means you got more marks than 25% of the people, but less marks than 75% of the people. So that's what they mean by percentile. So, and for example, you're at the 50th percentile, means you got 50% of the people got less than you and 50% got more than you, which is basically the 50th percentile, which is also called the median. So that's what we are trying to do. Like for example, I will show you how to get in here, but this is what we are trying to do by the category and region to see outliers, which people have more discounts than the rest, and we are kind of going to analyze that. So how do I get there? Let's start a new one, and let's we are going to look at discount. So let's drag discount. So if you look at it, we don't have this box and whisker plot that is available. So the reason we don't have it is it needs a lot of values. It needs to calculate the percentile values. So for that, right now, if you look at it, right now we have 1561. The reason we have it is if you go to analysis, because all the data is aggregated, I don't want the aggregation. So the moment I see it, I'm going to have all the list of data that is not aggregated. So right now, if you see it is enabled, which means now it is able to calculate the percentiles. So the moment I click on the percentiles, this is where it gets interesting. So this is where it gets interesting. So if you see here, the upper whisker is 0.45, which means the next whisker is the uppermost whisker is 0.45, and the upper quartile is 0.20, the lower quartile is 0, and lower whisker is 0, which means the four percentiles, as you can see here, are 0.45, 0.20, and 0.00 and 0. But because of the number of values, you can see there are certain things that are above the upper whisker, which is what we would definitely want to look for. So there are, for example, there are people who are getting 50% discount. You can right click and say view data and see who are the underlying people who are getting those. Like for example, as you can see, there are 66 orders which are getting more than 50% or equal to 50% of the sale. So definitely looking at this, you would definitely want to look at seeing what is a category that, as you know by now, we have three categories. So let's see what is a category in which we are kind of analyzing the data. So looks like it looks like when you look at the percentiles, furniture, there are people who are getting, like, your upper median in this case is 70%, which means there are a lot of orders between, there are, like, if you can see the upper quartile right there and upper whisker. So between 30% and 70%, you have 25% of your orders having discount between 30 and 70. So that is definitely a concern in furniture, because you're selling it at a very huge discount. And there are few orders in office supplies which are getting 80% of discount, which definitely again is a bit concern. So let's see, now that we looked at the category, let's see if we can add the region to the mix to identify which of the four regions are having this issue. So let's get the region out there. So right now, if you look at it now, what I'm doing is right now I'm adding the region to the mix to see what is going to happen is, by each region and by each category, I'm trying to see where are my outliers. So as you can see right now, my outliers are primarily in the office supplies, and there are people who are getting 80% of the discount. So let's see if I can add my profit to the color mix. So this is, and let me see if I can change this color to something meaningful. Let me see if I can use stepped color of 5 and automatic, let's say red, white and black. Now let's do red, white and green, diverging in a 5-step color, and I will say apply and click OK. So if you can see, the reason why we are not seeing here is because our background is white. So let's avoid white. Let's go to orange, blue, diverging. Let's say apply. So okay. So if you can see here, your profit is -1, but on a discount of 80%, which is still okay. If you, the other way to look at the data is just click on the mark and you get this view data column. So the moment you click on that view data, you can see the underlying data. So there is only one order which has that one, but if you see here, your profit is -94%, which is pretty bad. So you would definitely want to you would definitely want to see if you can kind of look at that data in very much detail. So technically in all these cases, like for example in here, you are going to look at the data and say your profit is, after 70% discount, your profit is minus -98, which definitely is something you would want to look at in detail. So that is one thing. So basically what we are trying to do here is trying to identify the outliers in your data, so that you can basically look at and analyze this. So we will talk about sets, but ideally we will want to basically select all of this, and then you can right click and you can basically create a set. Set is basically, what we do is we basically categorize all of this data and make a subset of data, and then we are going to analyze just that data. So we will basically go talk about that in sets, but at this point, this is what I wanted to discuss was the box and whisker. In the earlier graph, all I did was my coloring was on category. That's the reason you saw different colors. But in this case, I am doing it on profit. So as I said, you can do it on different stuff the way you want to look at different perspectives. But other options in the edit colors was, you might want to only, you can go to advanced and you can want to always start at 0, and or you want to end at 0. You want to end at 0 and start at this, and you can use say stepped colors, and that way you are primarily concentrating on the ones where you have very huge negative values. So looks like you're not really having any huge negative values, but you're still losing, but you definitely want to analyze all of that in detail. So that's all with the box and whisper, and I will come back to you in the next section. So this section, to conclude what we learned in this section, we looked at different types of charts. We started with pie, then we looked at bar, then we looked at line, and then we talked about the geographical stuff. And right now we just completed our analysis on the box and whisper. And yeah, in our next section we will talk about manipulating the data. So thanks for having me, and see you in the next section. Thanks and have a nice one.